Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Monica. In today's video, I am doing part 2 of my Living with Epilepsy series. And last time I left off with talking about the fear and how it never goes away. And I said that in part 2, I'm going to talk about what it feels like to have a seizure and kind of the emotions that I went through during the time of diagnosis and basically since 2005. So just to kind of go over all of the emotions and everything that I was going through, if you watch that video, if not, I highly recommend watching that first before you watch this video. I'll link it down below. In that video, I talked about how at one point my dad had actually asked me if I wanted to see a professional to kind of talk to someone because I might not be able to talk to my parents the same way that I would to a complete stranger. And I told him no, I want to live my life the way that I normally would. And I was a teenager. You can't tell a teenager you gotta go talk to a professional because, you know, you're not dealing with something right. Like I thought when I turned 18, I thought that I was an adult. I thought that I was a grown-ass woman and all this kind of stuff. So I did the typical rebellious stuff. Sorry, Mom and Dad. But, okay. Back to the actual video. I keep rambling. This is why I'm not allowed to do like chats because I just ramble. So when I was first diagnosed, like I said in that video, I didn't really know what epilepsy was, what that meant for my life, what that meant for my parents because I was obviously still living at home. And I didn't know what was going on really. It all happened at like lightning speed. Like all of that is just such a blur because even though it was over the span of several months, it was just one of those things where I can't even explain. I honestly, I can't even explain what was going through my mind when all of that was happening. But when I was diagnosed, I thought my world was over. I thought my life was over. And I know that I told my dad that I didn't want to talk to anyone, a professional, but looking back on it, I probably should have because, and I'm saying this as an adult now, looking back on it, and I probably should have only because I did go into a dark place. And I don't really want to go into complete detail about that because that was a part of my life that I don't want to really revisit. So I really didn't know how to handle the emotions of my life completely changed. And when you have a seizure, and to anyone out there who has ever even had a seizure, just because you have a seizure doesn't mean you're epileptic, which is a very big thing that a lot of people actually get wrong. A lot of people will say that if you've had one seizure, you're automatically epileptic. That's not it. People can have seizures once in their life, and that's it. And then they're fine. And there's no underlying issue and everything of that nature. So, but even if you have that one seizure in your life, it sucks. So the type of seizures that I haven't had one since 2017. I kind of want to keep it that way. But the type of seizures that I have, they're myoclonic. So they're not grand mal seizures. I'm not convulsing like crazy on the ground somewhere and, you know, things like that. But I'm also not, because some people don't know this, but some seizures are actually, you just stare. Like you literally just stare at something and you're just like not conscious at all. But mine, I wouldn't convulse like crazy, but basically my entire body would just like tense up, and it was, I had like superhuman strength when I had my seizures, and it took a lot out of me physically. So let's go into the different stages of having a seizure when it comes from the beginning of it to waking up and not knowing what the hell just happened. So for me, Basically what happens is I start twitching. So it's basically my brain is like starting to misfire, and I can tell, like I can feel it happening. So usually when that happens, I'll have to make sure that I'm on the ground, I'm not standing up, everything like that, and I'm not laying on my back. But that being said, I have these twitches. And then I don't remember anything. People have told me that they've seen me had a seizure, and that it's basically like my entire body just tenses up, and like I just make really crazy sounding noises, but I don't remember. And they tell me that when I wake up from the seizure, I answer their questions and I answer them correctly. Like I know what year it is, I know what my name is, I know how old I am, but I don't remember those questions whatsoever. And even though I don't remember the seizure, I know that I had one because of how I feel when I wake up. When I wake up, my entire body feels like it was hit by a bus. There's no better way of explaining it. There's really honestly no other way of explaining it any better. It honestly feels like I was just hit by a bus. And it takes me a little bit to come to. Usually I'm asleep for a couple of hours before that happens, which is why the last seizure was a little weird because I came to much faster. But again, we'll go into that in the next part of this series. So I finally wake up. I know I had a seizure, and every single time that I've woken up from a seizure, I cry. I bawl my freaking eyes out, okay? Like I will sit there and ugly cry every single time, because the way that I see it, and I don't know if this is the same for every person out there with epilepsy, but the way that I see it is I failed myself. I failed my body. My brain failed me. And why can't I just control it? Why can't I control it? And I said this in a previous video that, and I'm not saying some people can control their seizures, but for me, when I tried to control it, it made matters even worse. I felt like a million times worse than any other time. But I sit there and I just bawl my eyes out because I feel as though I failed. And I can't really explain why I feel that way. I think it's because since my seizures are so spaced out, I'm doing so well for so many years, and then boom, something happens and I have a seizure. And I think that that's why, like, I'm so hard on myself. I'm so hard on myself most of the time that I don't give myself enough credit for a lot of things. And being seizure free for as long as I have been in between my seizures is an accomplishment, because there are people that are having hundreds of seizures a day, and that's horrible. And for me to wake up and just bawl my eyes out like an idiot, like how is that fair to these people that are literally having these seizures every single day? Like they cannot get a good amount of sleep because they're just seizing all the time. But for me, it's just more of an emotional thing than anything else. And I think it's also because when I wake up, I am in so much pain that I don't know how to handle it, and I'm just not fully conscious. And I don't know, like I really don't know how to explain that part of the waking up. Usually I'll go and I'll ask my parents or my fiance, because my fiance has seen me have a seizure. Usually I'll ask them like, hey, did I have a seizure? Or they'll hear me moving around and they'll make sure to come upstairs and make sure that I go right back to bed. Because my whole thing is I want to get up and continue my life, but I can't. I have to go back to sleep. I have to sleep it off. I have to completely restart my brain, basically. I also forgot to mention in the video, and I'm not sure if this is the same for everyone who's had a seizure, but at least for me, it takes at least 24 hours for me to like really come back to normal Monica. And usually most of that 24 hours is spent sleeping. It's just, I keep on comparing it to the blue screen of death on a computer, but that's really the best way to explain what happens when I have a seizure. And so that's what happens when I have a seizure. Now, the different emotions that I've gone through over the years, I think the reason why I put myself in a lot of dangerous situations when it came to drinking, I think that for me, it was more of a rebellious thing. And for me, it was more so me saying F you to my condition and me saying F you to the universe for giving me this condition, because why me? I have gone through that stage of why me? Why out of all people do I have to live with this? And I know that you're not given things in life that you cannot handle. And I did put myself in a lot of dangerous situations. I look back on it now, and I was lucky. I was so lucky to not end up having a seizure at some house party in the middle of nowhere where I knew nobody. Like, I had my one friend, and that was it. And most people have no idea what to do when you have a seizure. Like, I've had to explain to people, because as I got older, I started realizing, like, okay, I gotta tell my coworkers, because even though I want to keep this a secret and like this is my dirty little secret, I didn't want to tell people. But then I started realizing I kind of have to tell people, because not many people know how to react when someone has a seizure. So there was that. I started talking about it more, and I started becoming a little more open about it, and then I started talking about it on my blog. And you know, I just kind of, I wouldn't say I became an advocate for it, but I'm very outspoken about it. And as much as it sucks having epilepsy, I know that I have it for a reason. What that reason is, I still do not know. I still haven't figured it out. But I know that there is a reason for me to have this condition. And my only thing too is that I would see my parents, and I think what broke my heart the most about this whole situation of being diagnosed and living with epilepsy was my parents. Watching my parents constantly have to worry about me. If I drop something on the floor upstairs in my room, it literally could have been like a hairbrush. My mom comes running up the stairs, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, are you okay? Because she thinks I had a seizure. Or if I didn't wake up from my alarm and my mom heard it, she comes running up the stairs making sure that I didn't have a seizure, that I just slept through my alarm. Or because my dad is, because my dad works the graveyard shift, so he's usually like just going to sleep when normal people are waking up. So my mom is always up. That's why I keep talking about how she's always the one that's coming to me. And the amount of stress that put my parents through broke my heart, because here they are watching their little girl go through this. They can't do anything about it. I know that my mom says all the time, my dad says the same thing, that if they could take this away from me and have it go to them, they would. Just like any parent out there. But to have to watch my parents constantly be worried about me, and in the beginning, I wasn't allowed to even take a shower by myself. Like, my mom, while I was taking a shower, was literally sitting on the toilet next to me. Not actually like going to the bathroom, but like she put the lid down and everything, but sitting there next to me, making sure that if she hears me starting to have a seizure, she can catch me before I smack my head. But yeah, so like my mom would literally have to sit there and watch all of this happen and watch all this unfold. And then when I had my seizure in Poland, my grandparents, I don't even know, I honestly, I don't even know where their mindset was. I don't know, it's just to have to watch your loved ones, and even my fiance, like he literally, if I don't, because he leaves for work before I do, if I don't text him right when I wake up, he freaks out and thinks that I died on the floor, because if he wasn't there for my last seizure, I would have died. And like I said in my last video, that fear never goes away. It never, ever goes away. And I wake up every morning wondering, am I gonna have a seizure today? Am I gonna collapse on the floor? Am I gonna die this time? Because I've had some close calls over the years. But that's basically what I wanted to talk about in this series. My next series will be more in depth about my last seizure and what has happened in the past 2 years. I've been doing good, but I just kind of wanted to go over what happened so that everyone has a better idea of what was happening with that one. So, if you have watched up to here, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you stick around for the next part of this series. Bye!